Hey everyone, it's
Hi.
a book review here from Mrs. Ellsburn. I know I was talking to you about this book in class, but I finished it, so I wanted to give you my final review, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. I would give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I don't know if part of the reason I love it so much is because I've read Frankenstein a lot and taught it a lot, so I'm pretty familiar with the text overall, but I think even if you haven't read Frankenstein, you would still really like it. So one of the things that I think is really clever in terms of craft is she dedicates it, or rather the chapter titles are all taken from John Milton's Paradise Lost. I like that literary aspect. Also, I like that the author, Kirsten White, has written it in keeping with the original Frankenstein. A lot of the same themes and questions are explored, the same motifs, like it's still written in a romantic sensibility, which I really enjoyed. And she dedicates it to, which was what I was going to say earlier, to Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley, whose creation still electrifies our imaginations 200 years later, and for everyone made to feel like a side character in their own story. So I love that she took Elizabeth. So essentially, if you haven't read Frankenstein before, the character of Elizabeth is a flat character. She is angelic. She is perfect. She has no purpose except to exist for Victor, and she is adopted by the Frankenstein family. She kind of feeds this orphan motif throughout the book, and she is also promised in marriage to Victor, her adopted brother, which is a little bit weird, but at least they're not blood relatives, I guess, is what I always tell the students. But other than that, she really has no storyline in the entire book. In this book, she is the storyline, so she is the protagonist, and it shows how her life has been one of survival. Pretty much, you know, she was adopted and had to like do everything for the Frankenstein family, and you know, kind of be there for Victor's whims and sort of his madness and craziness. Got a photo bomber there. Just because
New video
that's how
bomber?
she could, yeah, how she could survive or stay alive. So when the book starts, she is 100% like all in love with Victor, very devoted to him, but she starts getting some little hints that he's up to something when he goes off to Ingolstadt to college, which is the same, that plot point is the same as the original Frankenstein. So she starts putting some clues together that he might be doing some odd stuff, and then there's a lot of flashbacks where she goes back to the times in their childhood where he would experiment with things, and even, you know, Ernest and Henry and William have much more of a role in this story, as well as Justine. So she gets the hint that he's up to something pretty not right. And so she starts trying to cover it up for him, though, because she's so devoted to him and she doesn't want him to get in trouble, and she's worried about his descent into madness. Of course, the book is called The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein, so you can guess that it's going to start affecting her as well. So I'm going to read you a little passage from the book. In this passage, Elizabeth is in a mental ward, and how she gets there is something that you would have to find out by reading it. And there's another character that's added to the story, which is Mary, and she's somebody that Elizabeth and Justine met when they were trying to find Victor when he was in college at Ingolstadt. So I'll just read this passage to you and then leave it with the hook. It says, "I shook my head." I is, of course, Elizabeth. "It did not matter now. Nothing mattered now. I could have," she's talking to Mary, because Mary came to get her out of the mental ward. "I could have investigated more thoroughly, but I thought the bodies were stolen from graveyards and purchased from charnel houses. I thought that he had lost his mind, that I was protecting him from the censure of the world, not from justice well deserved. I should not have rushed to help him. I am so sorry. Please know that being complicit has cost me everything I love in the world." She gripped my hands, she being Mary, her clutch almost painful. I leaned into her touch, starving for it. "I am not sorry," she said. "I am furious. And you should not be sorry either. He has taken too much from both of us, from the world. He, being Victor, cannot be allowed to win. Will you help me?" I laughed bleakly, looking around the box that held me. "I cannot even help myself." She reached under her skirts and removed a second nurse's uniform hidden there. Nurses always left in pairs. The two of us could walk out of this nightmare. Elizabeth Lavenza, her black eyes narrowed with intensity. it is time to kill your husband. And then the story proceeds from there. The other note I will add is that at first I really missed the creature, because the creature is my favorite character in the actual original Frankenstein, but as I finished the book, I did not feel that way. So if you're like me and you miss the creature as you're reading the beginning, just know that he does make an appearance and gets a name in the book as well, which you might be interested in. So I'd highly recommend it. It's sort of a dark mystery type book. It definitely has its dark moments. If you've read Frankenstein, you'll love it. I think if you haven't read Frankenstein, you'll still enjoy the twist that it gives, and I think it's a very well crafted book. Highly recommend. Okay, thanks for listening. See you guys later.